where some devices were mounted on, and now we do not have those devices anymore, or those devices are not getting accessible automatically, and there was some database that was dependent upon that disk, or there was some application, there was some website that was dependent upon that disk. Now the disk is not accessible to me. So first condition is how I am going to find out that what was the file system of my device. By what file system, how I have formatted that disk. The first condition that I need to get is this. So this we can obtain by simply running the command blkid. Just run the command blkid and it tells you that which particular disk partition is formatted by what file system. So blkid to identify the file system with which my disk is formatted. So here you can check it clearly. SDB1 is formatted with ext4, SDB2 is formatted with ext3. Okay, and my SR1 is nothing else but my ISO 9660. So by running this blkid, I got to know that my SDB2 was formatted with ext4. Now I can try to run mount command, but I need to find this also, where it was mounted earlier. What was the last mount point? If I will mount it at some XYZ location, it is not going to serve the purpose, because the issue is my website was dependent upon some particular data block, or my application was dependent upon some particular data block. My database was dependent upon some particular mount point, which I am not having anymore. So I need to find out that this particular SDB1 or this particular SDB2 was last mounted at which particular mount point. What was the path where it was referenced? What was the reference path for it? So this we can check by using two commands. One is using dump e2fs. One command is by using dump e2fs, followed by the device dev/sdb say 2. So what this command is going to do is, it is going to return me the information, the management set of information which is associated with my SDB2 device. So for it, it's giving me a last mount point not available. As journal, extended attributes, when was it was last mounted, what was the last time, when was the file system created, all set of information is here. Okay. Second thing that we can check it by using tune 2fs -l followed by the same dev/sdb. So like say here, if you check, it's giving you the information last mounted on disk 1. So after reboot, when you boot it on, you get that information where it was mounted. What was the last mount location? So either by using dump e2fs or by using tune 2fs -l, you can get this information. So now we got this info that where it was last mounted on, we can simply run our mount point, or we can make our entries into our fstab file with the same file system and details. Got it? Okay. Sometimes it may happen that you are not able to access your data, or the management tool that you are using, it's giving you an error message. The management tool is giving you error message, like say you are using Nagios as a monitoring tool, or you are using HP NNMI, or you are using HP OV, any of the tool as a monitoring tool, monitoring agent. So your monitoring agent reports that the disk is having some bad sectors, or the disk is having some lost files, some lost fragments like that into it. So how I can perform a disk repair? How I can repair my disk? So whenever there is any fault into my disk, whenever I feel like that there could be some problem in the disk, we can use the command fsck. But mind one thing, do not try to run fsck on a mounted file system. When I say do not try to run fsck on a mounted file system means I am saying that ensure that the device on which you are running fsck, its name does not appear in df command's output. The df command doesn't report this device to be mounted on there. If in case it is mounted, there are likely the chances of getting data corrupted. There are likely the chances of getting data corrupted. So whenever you have to run fsck, always ensure that the file system is not mounted. File system is not mounted means its name doesn't comes in the output of your mount command, or its name doesn't comes into the output of your df-h or the df command. They should not report the name of this device. So currently if I check df, I don't have my SDB2, I can run fsck on that. But if I try to run fsck, that is file system consistency check. fsck is my file system check utility. So what we are doing by using fsck is we are checking our file system for errors. There are two versions of fsck, one is fsck and second is E2 fsck. So fsck dev/sdb, one if I am trying to do, read the error message what it is giving me. Just read the message what it is giving me. What it says, dev/sdb1 is mounted, E2 fsck cannot continue, aborting. You may try to do it using the -f forceful switch. You are working on an older version of Linux, EL5, EL6, you may run into trouble because it will start doing the file system checking there. So always ensure that the file system where you are doing it is not a mounted file system. Now if I am checking it on this, now it is testing my file system for inodes, directory structure, directory connectivity, reference counts, checking group information, all your files and data blocks. So if everything is okay, you get no error. But if there are some faults in the file system, you get in the error messages here. Then it will give you option to repair, relocate or recreate the inodes, whatever has been faulty there. There is one more command which is slightly on an advanced note, referred up as your debugfs followed by your file system name. Debugfs is used generally when I am trying to detect my deleted file systems or the deleted files. These are the various options that you can perform here. So here if we check, we have show inode info, dump extents, I have blocks, links, report my file fragmentation, all that information I can check it here. So we have an option here as lsdel, list deleted files. We have here as lsdel, list deleted files. Just in case there had been any file on my system which is deleted, I will get a listing of all the deleted inodes from here. That is why I said debugfs is slightly on the advanced form. It's an advanced way of managing my file system. I may try to recover my deleted files using the debugfs file system also. So debugfs It's like debugging my file system and then trying to recover my lost information from it. Okay. So related to my file management, what all commands we learned? First is fdisk, second is mkfs, third is mount, fourth is tune2fs, dump-e2fs, then fsck, e2fsck, debugfs related to my disk management. Either you can run fsck or you can run e2fsck. Okay, e2fsck followed by your dev/sdb2. It tells me that my device is clean. If there are any errors, the errors will be reported here and you will be prompted to take the necessary action. So we now learned that how to enable a new device, how to scan a new disk if in case it's not identified by my kernel, how to force my kernel to scan a new disk. Then we talked about how to create partitions on a new disk. Then we talked about how to make file systems on those partitions. Then we talked about how to use those partitions which we have just now created, creating in temporary mounting and defining in persistent mounting. Then we talked about how to get my disk relevant information using the blkid command, using the dump-e2fs command, using the e2fsck command, using my commands as say tune2fs-l command. We got the various informations related to our file system. And when there is an issue related to my file system errors, some lost files and fragments, we know that there are three commands which we can use for managing it: fsck, e2fsck, and my third command as debugfs. Okay, so by using these various commands we can try to manage our file system. Okay, that's just one thing. Good, very good. We are done with this stage. Now let's say in a real-time production scenario, it's not always going to be this much simple. There are many more things to be done after that. Let's say this is a centralized storage and your users are storing movies, songs, pictures on the disk drive. I may not want them to do that. We have created a storage disk, it's good, very good. But now I want that each and every user in my network, he should be limited to a particular disk space only. That is, when the relevant user logs in on my system, he should not be able to get the whole disk space, but he should be confined to a particular space there. So what I am trying to do is, I am trying to enforce quota on a user account. I am trying to enforce disk limitation. I am trying to limit that XYZ user cannot store more than this much capacity of data on the desired disk. When root accesses, he gets a full access of data. But when any other user tries to store data, he is limited, he is confined to a particular amount. Let's say I said every user is going to get 2 GB of disk space. He cannot store more than 2 GB of data. Or let's say when I am talking about the mailboxes of user, so I want to enforce that no user can have his mailbox more than 200 MB. The moment it goes beyond 200 MB, you will have to keep on downloading all your mails so that you do not increase that 200 MB of mailbox size. So I want to enforce those kind of things on my disk. Remember one thing, quota can be applied on a disk, not on a folder. I can apply quota on a partition, but I cannot apply quota on a directory. So for applying my disk quota, the first thing is it should be enabled at the file system level. If I don't have my quota enabled on file system level, I cannot enforce my quota there. I cannot force my users to be a particular limit there. How I can identify if in case the quota is there or not? Just simply run your mount command and then grep your there's no SDB2 mounted there. So let's firstly do that mount. So I need to firstly do what? I need to have this particular file system mounted. And I want this quota to be a persistent value. So we need to define it persistently in our file system. How I can do it? By making entries in my which file? I want to make my SDB2 persistent. So what file I'll have to modify? etc/fstab. Just to copy it, paste it, and we'll replace it to 2, this to 2, and here mount -a check. So what all things we have here? What are the options available for this? The file system is available in read-write mode. It allows real-time data management, and data has always to be stored into an ordered sequence. Okay. So if I try to check my quota here, if I try to enforce my quota here, for quota management, we have mainly 4 commands. First is quota check. Second is my ED quota. Third is my report quota. Quota check, ED quota, and rep quota. By using these 3 commands, I can enforce the quota to be deployed on my system. Did you understand the concept of quota? I want to enforce restriction on the usage. Now quota is of 2 types. One, quota on the number of files that you can create, and quota on the capacity of data that you can store. First type of quota we call up as block device quota, and second type of quota we call it up as inode number quota. I want to enforce you that you can create maximum up to 2 GB of data. More than 2 GB data you are not allowed to use it there. That is my block quota. We are referring it up as a quota on the data size. Second is, I want to enforce that you cannot create more than 500 files. The moment you are trying to create more than 500 files, it should stop you, it should give you a warning, no more files can be created, quota exceeded. One, I want to enforce you on the number of files. Second, I want to enforce you on the capacity of files, capacity of data. Okay. So first step is, currently my file system is not having a quota. So when I'm going to run my command quota check -c, that is check my quota, what type of quota to be tested? User quota. G, perform a group quota testing on which file system? dev/sdb2. Or on my so read the error messages what I am getting. Mount pointer device disk2 not found or has no quota enabled on it. But if we check df, here I have my disk2 here. My df command shows me that I have disk2. But here when I am checking, it gives me a message disk2 not found or has no quota enabled. So first step is, I have to make my file system enabled with quota. So this is something that I have to enable it at my file system level. Unless or until I am not doing it, I will not be able to get my quota checking there. Okay. So for this what I have to do is, I have to modify my etc/fstab file, and in my fstab file together with defaults, if you want to enforce only the quota at user level per user basis, then in that case make a entry here as USRQUOTA, user quota. You want to enable quota for the groups also, comma GRP quota. USR quota is only for creating quota limits for individual users. GRP quota, I want to enable quota for all the members of my frontline division. I want to enable quota for all the members of my sales division. So all my sales engineers, all my sales business development guys, I want them to have a particular limit of quota. I don't want to apply quota individually to each and every person, but I want to apply quota at a group level. So then in that case, GRP quota should be enabled. If you want to enable it at an individual user level, then only USR quota should be there. Just make these entries and now run the command mount. Now this time I am going to use some options with my mount command. The options that I am going to use is mount -o, remount, I am not mounting it, I am just remounting my file system. Mount -o, remount. What to be remounted? My disk 2. So mind one thing, when we earlier did it, what was the output of my mount grep sdb2 command? And see, just compare the difference between the two outputs. Previously, I didn't had quota enabled there, so there is no quota reporting coming. But now, once I made entries into my fstab file and remounted my file system, we are having quota, user quota, group quota enabled on my file system. Okay. Now if I check, before I execute my next command, let me show you the output of my key got changed. Cut. Okay. Just next to my defaults, we have used USR quota and GRP quota. Now if I do say mount pipe grep sdb2, so it is reporting with quota. Now let's check one more thing, ls-a / disk2. What all are the contents that we have here? So at disk2, as of now, we are not having anything except for the loss plus found, which is a symbol of recycler. So like in Windows you have recycle bin, here we have loss plus found. So my disk 2 is not having anything. If you recall earlier when we tried to run the command, which command? Quota check -cug or quota check -cug disk 2. We got in some error message, mount point not defined or not found or no quota enabled. Okay, let's try to rerun the same command. Quota check -c, check for quota and create my quota files. U for user quota, G for group quota on my mount point 2. Okay, quota check -cug, C to create the quota file, U check for the user quota there, G check for the group quota there. Enter. Didn't show me anything as output, but did something at the back end. And what it did is generated these two files for me, a quota.group and a quota.user. Previously we didn't had these files. because there was no quota defined on my file system. Once I changed the entries in my FS tab, defined a quota, now the quota entries are coming for you. Now what is the advantage of getting these files? The advantage is now when I am going to run my command rep quota, that is report quota, followed by -u. So report my quota for the disk 2 about all the users. -u is user level quota. Report -g is group level quota. And rep quota -a show me for all users and groups. Rep quota -u followed by the mount point reports the user level quota definition. Rep quota -g followed by the mount point reports the group level quota definition. And rep quota -a reports the quota definition for all users as well as groups. Okay. So now what I need to do is I need to create in here a quota for user. Let's create in a new user and create a quota for him. So user add test user -d / home / test user -m if the file does not exist, and default shell is bin/bash, and create a user by the name test user. Okay, then pass wd test user. Okay, so I want to apply a quota only for this user, test user, not for the user Vivek. User Vivek should be allowed to create more files, but test user should be allowed to create only 10 files. He should not be allowed to create more than 10 files. He can generate only 10 files there. Okay. df-h shows me that the capacity of my disk is 4.8 GB and 4.6 gigs of space is available. Okay. How I can define my quota? ed quota -u followed by the username, the user for whom you are going to define your quota. Now in this file I need to understand something. I need to understand some information here. It is giving me a listing of all those file systems that have quota enabled. I have not done anything for SDB1, but because there is quota enabled for SDB1, SDB1 is also coming into the listing. Okay. Now refer here, there are two segments. My first segment is blocks and second segment is inode. Under both the segments, you have 3 columns. Okay. You have to understand these columns here, because my whole quota functionality depends upon these columns. If you refer, the first segment is my blocks. So here I have blocks followed by soft and hard. The same way, there is second segment that I have is inodes followed by soft and hard. In quota terminology, we call it, this is my soft limit definition and this is my hard limit definition. Soft limit means warning level. Hard limit, restriction level. At what level you want to apply warning, that is soft limit. At what level you want to apply restriction, that is my hard limit. And under blocks, here you will have to do a little bit calculation. Here you'll have to do a little bit of function. Some mathematics has to be applied here. Blocks, if in case there is a value coming under the block segment, it means that this much of space is already consumed. I am working on a device, I need to apply, let's say earlier the company policy was everybody should have full control. Everybody should be capable of storing data up to the maximum limit. But now when we observe that people have started storing movies on the server, they have started storing videos, and they have started storing their images, songs, and lot of things there, which is not relevant to the company functionality. So now, to enforce a limit on that, what we are doing is, we are enforcing that from now onwards, from this point onwards, they should not be capable of storing more than 2 GB of data. So there would already be some data on the system, there would already be some data on my device. So whatever value you are getting in block, under the block segment, this is the used capacity, and you have to apply quota by summing the new limit on that. So let's say if in case already there is 1 GB of data consumed in, and you have to enforce that the user to have limit on 2 GB. So if you are going to specify a limit here as 2 GB, what will happen is, user will be able to create only 1 GB of data. Why? Because you have said the moment capacity goes up to 2 GB, enforce a restriction. 1 GB of data was already consumed. So when the user will try to store 2 GB, he will get in a error. User quota exceeded, cannot store data. Why? Because you have given him a limit of 2 GB, where 1 GB of data is already consumed. So though he is trying to store data in his permitted limits, but still he will not be able to get the data applied. He will not be able to store that 1 more GB of data there. So whenever you have to apply a hard limit or soft limit, do some calculations, whatever is the block space reported, add the quota limit into it. So I need to permit him to store 2 more GB of data. So 1 plus 2, that is my hard limit now. Let's say I want to give him a warning at 1.5 GB of data. So 1 is already there. So now my warning will be at 2.5, not at 1.5. So once he stores 2.5 GB of data, he will be getting in a warning message, because I want to allow him to store 2 gigs of data there. So that is 1.5 GB I want to give him a warning, 1 is already there. So we will have to add 1.5. That is my 2.5, that's the soft limit. So whatever you want to set up as a warning value, that is your soft limit, and whatever you want to set up as a hard value, that's your restriction value. The same is the thing here with my inodes also. Whatever value is coming under the inodes, this is the number of files already existing on your system, already existing on the partition. Soft, how many files you want to give him a warning. Hard, how many files you want him to restrict. Got it? So here our condition is, I want that the test user should not be able to create more than 50 files. And the moment he creates 40 files, he should get a warning. So in this case, I am not going to touch the blocks. What I am going to do is, I am going to touch the inode references. So currently, how many inodes do I have here? It reports that currently there are no inodes, 0. That means there are no files existing here. Soft, when he creates 30, I want to give him warning. Okay, and when he reaches a limit of 50 files, I want to give him a restriction. The moment he has created 50 files, he should not be allowed to create more than that. Okay. What is the option for exit? Control X. Do you want to save? Yes. Enter. Now the quota details got saved. ed quota -u test user. Enter. And then now what we did is, we modified in the inode segment. I am not restricting him here as of now for the number, for the space of data. I am restricting him for the number of files. Exit. Okay. Now let me create a new session of this user. ssh test user at so test user is now created. We just checked df sdb2 is available /disk2. okay, I went to the directory /disk2 ls. okay, now let me try to create some files here. Touch file created, file 2 file created. okay, this way it is going to take a lot of time. okay, let's say from 3 to 33 I got the files created. Total how many files now I got? Some 33 files. okay, let's try to create files 533. Should I be allowed or should I not be allowed? It should not allow me. Ideally it should not allow me, but it created the files. That's strange. So something is wrong. Now what is wrong? Rep quota. okay, rep quota -u test user on disk 2.
Is that because you love because you are firing the command from
No, that has to be from the root only. This user cannot run his quota. He does not have permission to access. The limited user? It has to be created from the limited user.
Who is going to fire the command? The limited user?
The limited user. We are enforcing quota for whom?
For limited user.
For the limited user.
Which environment have you fired the command? From root or from test user?
From the test user.
Yeah, from test user.
Because we are creating in a quota limit for him on SDB. Okay. It's something wrong. Something is wrong here. Quota check -u/2. Yes. Because it has to be done now. Okay. Let me do one thing. There's no file. Okay, let me check my quota check command once more. Now if execute ed quota, it should be 0, yes, quota check ls-l/disk2. okay, and what's my date? 400 hours. Yes, the file just now got created. And ed quota -u for test user. I want to deploy a quota for dev sdb2 on the number of inodes. Soft limit is 300 and hard limit is 500, and here soft limit is 102400 and hard limit is 204800. limiting warning message on 1 GB and restriction on 2 GB. Control X. Yes. Hard limit should be greater than. It should be greater than. Okay. Web quota -u on this 2. For root, it is reporting web quota -a, not reporting the quota for user quotas or device. Okay. Rep quota -v on my device 2. So it says that for test user there is a limitation of 300. Total blocks are 7, data blocks 1, entries 2, used average is this. Okay. Now let's try to create the files once again for him. Okay. Touch files from 1 to 533. Okay. My du-sh, it's only 52K of data, that is why. Okay. We are creating zero length files, that could be the reason. rm-f, just try to check. Okay. My present directory is disk dd. Input file is equals to a special device dev/0. Output file at my current location is, let's say, dummy data 1. Block size is equals to 4096 kilobytes and count is equals to, say, 100. So it should create somewhat around 400 MB of data. Copied. Okay. Let's make it dummy data 2. Again try to create 400 MB. Okay. Let's check du-sh, that is disk usage information at a folder level. df shows me information at the disk level, whereas du shows me information at the folder level. So currently 801 MB of data got consumed. Okay. Let's try to create one more file. Another 400 MB of data got copied, 1.2 GB, and here my rep quota -v says that soft limit 102400204800. Okay. Count is equals to 1000. No, we have created a user quota. It's a user quota only working there. Quota is not working. It should work. Because if I check ls-lh, it should not allow me to create the fourth file. The third file itself should not be allowed. I should get a warning message there. Okay. Quota. My mistake. I have not activated the quota. I was supposed to run one more command after that, that is quota on. We have defined quota, we have done everything, but we have not activated the quota. Okay. Apologies. I was supposed to, I told you that there are 4 commands, but we talked about only 3. Quota check, ed quota, rep quota. What about the 4th one? 4th one is my quota on, which we missed to run here. Quota on, disk 2. Unless or until I am not going to run this command, it's not going to enforce quota there. Currently here I am getting a disk of capacity 4.6 gigs, but some other user on whom the quota is applied, he tries to access, he should get a limited capacity itself there. Sometimes silly mistakes happens. Okay, let's check DFAR. Let's try to rerun our commands that we have executed earlier. Dummy data 1. First 400 MB should be allowed. Second 400 MB should also be allowed. Okay. Now here if we check rep quota -v u on this 2, so there is some quota limit on it. Okay. So how much amount of data we got consumed in till now? df-h I have consumed, it's still 4.6, but du we were supposed to do this step inside the disk 2 directory. 400 MB gone. Read the message. What it says now. Error writing dummy data 1 disk quota exceeded. I cannot store more than that because I have been limited to store only this much amount of data. It's a 200 MB. I have been allowed by my administrator to store only 200 MB of data here. It is rm-f dump star du-sh. Currently it's only 52K. Okay. The moment I am saying 1024K, try to create 100 MB of data got created. Okay. When I try to create 50 more MB of data, still got created. Same files. Dump data 1 and dump data 3. And if I make this count value to 100, cannot write, my disk quota exceeded. Okay. So this is in terms of my capacity. We have limited that this user can create maximum this much amount of data. The moment he tries to store data more than that, he gets in a error message like this. the disk quota is exceeded, user cannot create more than this. Okay, let's say I remove this file dump data 3. So still I am within the limits, 101 MB. I am inside the quota limits. Now let's try to do that. Touch file 1 to 800. Should I be allowed to create the files? Quota exceeded, quota exceeded, quota exceeded, quota exceeded. And since when it started saying this message? From my file number 499. Because there are already some files. And I am allowed to create maximum 500 files. We have placed a quota limit here. The quota limit says that maximum I can create 500 inodes. So the moment I try to exceed 500, it starts giving me an error message. Quota exceeded, quota exceeded. Though still, if we check du-sh, still the data is only 101 MB. But because I have exceeded my inode count, I cannot do that. Okay, got this quota concept? Let's summarize in our steps once again. Step by step, disk quota. Step 1, enable quota at file system level, that is vi etc fs tab, and so edit etc fs tab and add to options USR quota for user level quota implementation and GRP quota for group level quota implementation. So that is dev sdb2 on my disk 2 together with defaults, comma USR quota, comma GRP quota 0 and 0. So on whichever file system I need to have my quota managed, the first step that I have to do is I have to enable the quota at file system. Then step 2, tell your kernel about this change, else will be activated after reboot. I have to tell my kernel right now that there has been a quota implementation, else when my system goes for a power cycle, then it will be updated about the changes. So this we can do by running mount -o remount. If you want, you can explicitly give it here as USR quota, comma GRP quota / disk. That is remounting my file system with quota activation. Okay. Step 3, generate the quota config files on desired file system by running quota check -c create -u user level -g group level. So create user quota, group quota. So quota check -cug followed by your mount point. Okay. So above command will generate a quota.user and a quota.group files on your mount point. Without these two files, this will not happen. Okay. Then step 4, define quota for the selective user or group. So this we do by running ed quota -u followed by username for user quota and ed quota -g followed by group name for group quota. Yes, dist2. Mount point means dist2. Okay. So here we are doing it for our ed quota -u test user. This opens up a temporary file where I have to do, so in front of my dev sdb2, refer how many blocks do you already have, add the limited value to it. So here you have defining soft is warning, hard is restriction. Okay. Two types of quota we have. One is block level, that is size based. So block quota is on the basis of size, and inode quota is count. Inode quota is your file count. Again, soft is warning, hard is limit. So this is actually my file count we are talking about. Define it and it's working. Where? So define it. Once the quota is defined, now save and quit from your file. After that, step 5, turn on quota. If not done, whole exercise is in vain. That is quota on. One option is you can simply say quota on -a. Quota on -a, activate quota on all file systems that support. Quota on -a will activate quota on all the file systems whichever have been mounted with user quota or group quota. For a specific, quota on followed by your mount point, activate only for the respective mount point. Okay. For specific FS. So this activates for a specific file system, whereas quota check -a activated for all the. Got it? If in case I need to deactivate quota, for deactivating quota off. Okay. Activation is using quota on, deactivation is quota off. Quota off -a for all, quota off followed by a specific mount point only for the respective file system. So this deactivates the quota. Okay, this is managing my user quota.